everybody. So today I'm going to be doing another top 10 list. What's this one going to be about? Animated films again. I've talked about animated films a lot actually. In fact, that's pretty much just what I like to do on this channel the most. But this time I think it's time to look at a top 10 list of animated films I somehow haven't really done yet. The non-Disney stuff. When you think of an animated movie, most people just think of Disney in their minds. I do too. But today I think I'm going to go ahead and stop from that and actually do something different. Look at the ones that aren't Disney. Look at the ones that were made from another company, because there are still a lot of those out there. And I think it's time I bring those up. Simply because when I did a top 10 list of my favorite anime movies, it was literally just all Disney films. Like, seriously, no. Barely any of them were non-Disney. So today I'm going to go ahead and take that in. And these are all going to be movies that were released, that were animated, that were, I guess, for kids. I mean, I don't know if all of them are family films, but these are all animated movies that weren't released by Disney, Pixar, or any other of those Disney animated companies. These are films released by other animated companies, films that the animation departments outside of Walt Disney Studios did. And that's what I'm going to do today. And this is all, of course, ranked by my opinions, my favorites, not anyone else's favorites, because I don't have the legal rights to do that. I wish I did, though. So that said, let's get this out of the way. These are my top 10 favorite non-Disney animated movies. The Polar Express. A lot of people have been talking mixed of this movie. I've talked about this before if you haven't seen already, and I have said this is a nice, fun Christmas classic. I really don't know why I should be talking about Christmas right now, but The Polar Express is definitely a good animated film. It has a nice story, it has nice details, like I said. It tells a nice fun story of a kid hopping onto some random train to go to the North Pole to see Santa. Okay, yeah, I guess when you're older you can really just let that sink in. Some random kid finds a train come up to a yard at the night. Some random guy says, "Hey, you want to go to the North Pole?" "Oh boy, yeah." And just, I don't know, that may sound messed up on paper, but when you're a child growing up with this movie, as well as maybe growing up with the novel that this film was an adaptation of, you really can admire what the film has. And it's, of course, like I said, made with motion capture. It's like a style of animation that Robert Zemeckis, the director of this movie, hasn't done before. And back then, it was really cool feature to have. I mean, we all use it, of course, today with, Harry Potter and Avengers and whatnot. But back then, when it wasn't used as often, having this entire movie be made with motion capture was pretty nice. It definitely led to a lot of great introductions. So, yeah, I think this movie really does work. It's a fun Christmas film to watch every year. It definitely brings the spirit into even those who aren't children, like me. Because, since I've said sounds messed up on paper, when you're an adult older, it still is a fun movie to watch. Rango. This is a movie that was always considered a popular one, however, wasn't even made by one of those who were popular. It was the Nickelodeon movie company. Nickelodeon, we all know, is an TV network made for kids. It had shows like SpongeBob or Avatar or all those fun cartoons and family shows children grew up with, and which they made an animation company to release animated movies, well, as well as even some live action films. Rango was one of them. So yeah, even though this company wasn't very popular, when they did make a good movie, you could get Rango, a film that has often been considered their best out of the bunch. I will admit, I actually really love Rango. One thing I love about it the most is the animation style. It's kind of simple, but they don't really use it as much because I feel like the animation just looks so clean and crisp. I always wonder if this all actually takes place in a realistic world, like all the realistic things around them. It looks so real. I'm sorry. I just couldn't imagine how real this all background looks. I don't know. I had that a lot in most other films. It was just a theory I had, but regardless of that, Rango is definitely a good movie to watch, and it's one of the few that Nickelodeon actually made without screwing it up. Yeah, could you imagine that? Nickelodeon not screwing up a movie? Ooh. Despicable Me. I've talked about this before as I call it a funny film, and I have said before that these minions, despite being cash grabbers for the Illumination company, are still pretty hilarious. Well, it was mainly just for this one specific film. The other ones, the sequels, did spend too much time with the minions, so I guess that's when people found them annoying. But when they were used in this movie, they were used pretty nice. The overall atmosphere when the minions aren't stealing the show is also pretty funny too. I also, of course, love the animation style they use because it's fast paced and it's not a normal animation style you see in movies at the time. But that's just what makes it more funny and more interesting. And that's what this entire film is. And it's not just the comedy that works. It's of course how the animation pops out and how some of the serious moments are still well blended in with the other moments that aren't serious. That's just what makes for a good movie. It was definitely good for Illumination. A lot of company has gone on to make movies with more comedy and more minions. It still was nice to see this film be their introduction. We should all just hope that maybe Illumination is best for this one specific movie and not for any of the others. Even though the others still exist, and we probably should still be concerned that they exist. I don't know. Let's just move on. I've already talked about this enough, I think. Kung Fu Panda. Now we're getting into the animation company that everyone considers to be the greatest when it's not Disney. DreamWorks. DreamWorks is, of course, always considered to be Disney's competitor in animation. Mostly Pixar. Pixar versus DreamWorks. That's been going on for a while. As Pixar's been releasing their hits, DreamWorks have been trying to release their hits to try and become even better. The problem is there has been times where DreamWorks have been trying too hard to become better. And so some of their movies fail. But the ones that don't fail are unique to movies that aren't at all copycats or just obvious rip-offs of stealing from Pixar. They're just trying to do their own thing. And that's what Kung Fu Panda comes in. This is, of course, one of DreamWorks' most popular franchises. The film has gone on to, be considered one of the best out there. And I consider it a great one as well. Because the film has something that none of the other Pixar movies have. It's a story about a fighting panda, a panda who wants to learn Kung Fu, but it's one of those movies where it's populated by nothing but animals, and yeah, okay, that's kind of cliche, but overall this still is a funny movie. It's also a cool movie because the moments that aren't funny and the moments that are serious are good to watch. It's a very powerful movie. It has its emotional moments, it has its funny moments, it has its good moments. It's what makes this movie unique to the other Pixar. It doesn't make it better, but it just makes it more unique. Makes it something that DreamWorks should do more often. Actually not steal from Pixar, not try to be better than Pixar, just try to be what they should be. A simple, fun, unique animation company. A Nightmare Before Christmas. A lot of you are going to argue and tell me this is a Disney film since, as you see it nowadays, it's marketed as Disney. However, the backstory of The Nightmare Before Christmas does prove this isn't really the Disney film. This movie was made by Touchstone Pictures. At the time, Touchstone Pictures was a Disney company, but Disney didn't have its Walt Disney Animation Studio, nor Pixar Studio, nor any of the other animation studios Disney was normally used to using at the time in charge of this film. This film was done by stop motion, done by Tim Burton himself, as this was the time Tim Burton's career really was going from some big paths. This movie brings the Tim Burton imagination he wanted to life, and it does it in a really great way. I've talked about this before when I was talking about Halloween movies and whatnot, but looking at it now, I just want to tell you that even though this is marketed as Disney, it still, in realistic terms, isn't necessarily a Disney title. It's not like not like a Walt Disney Animation Studios title. It's just, a title, an animated movie distributed by a Disney-related company. It's still different. So, you know what? Where the charge I was going with, it still counts, alright? It still counts, and it's still a really good movie to talk about. I've talked about it a lot before. You get the idea. It's a mix between Halloween and Christmas. It's a Tim Burton classic. You get it, okay? The Peanuts movie. This was a movie made by the old famous Blue Sky Studios, an animation company that tries to release their movies more frequently. This company does not try to be better than Disney, thankfully, as we've seen more of them trying to actually become sadly inferior The first Ice Age movie, while it was a hit, still just didn't compete well. Then they released more movies, those weren't really well competing, as they just decided let's make more Ice Age sequels, which obviously failed miserably. But when they were not making Ice Age sequels or flopping films that just couldn't do good, they made the Peanuts movie. A film, well, based on the Peanuts, one of my favorite childhoods growing up with. For those who don't know, this actually was not the first ever Peanuts movie released on the big screen. There was around the 60s and 70s they released a bunch of Peanuts films. It's just this was the first one that does feel like a cinematic Peanuts movie compared to every other animated movie we see today. I personally think this movie's that good because it just has that kind of emotion you want to see in more blue sky movies. It doesn't waste its time trying to steal money from other animation companies. It steals money from their own company. And that's what they do. They're not making an Ice Age sequel. They're not making a sequel to any of the other films. They're just trying to prove those movies are much better than they became. They're just trying to make the Peanuts become more well received. And that's what they did. The movie's well animated, well detailed, and definitely was fun to watch. It's for the younger audience, though. I probably wouldn't call it a great movie when I have to sit through it nowadays. But for the time I watched the movie, it was very enjoyable, and I think I can and still enjoy it today, knowing how much I enjoyed it before. How to Train Your Dragon. This is often considered by many to be the best from DreamWorks. Is it my opinion? Well, if you see another DreamWorks movie on this list, then you'll know if it's not. But if you don't see another DreamWorks movie on this list, then yeah, this is my favorite. This movie tells the simple story about a kid who learns to fight dragons from his family, but then finds a dragon and actually trains it, as he wants to now have fun training the dragons rather than killing them. And that's what he does. It's kind of what this movie is. On paper, that just sounds like something that Pixar or Disney would do, and you're just like, hey, let's be better than Disney. I'm sure they can't do anything about it since they're not going to be able to make this movie since we already made it. But no, this was not that. It was something else. It was a well-written, well-pasted, well-animated, and definitely well-aged story. The film had a lot of great moments in it, and if you look at the poster, you'll notice that this film was, of course, released in 3D. And the 3D effects did work great in this film. It was mostly just, seeing point of views of the dragon flying moments. But those point of view moments were really fun to sit through. And were definitely led to a lot of great movie viewings. I do sound like I saw this in 3D. Okay, I cannot lie. I did not see this in 3D. But from what I have seen, I could imagine this would look really well in 3D. This, of course, led to sequels. We got a How to Train Your Dragon 2 and a How to Train Your Dragon 3. I reviewed the third movie, said it was a nice film, and yes, I did see that in 3D. But even though the 3D wasn't well done like I thought, it was still a good movie. All three of the movies were good. I can't say which one's better. All I can say is the original was definitely a great sitting to sit through. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now let's get to Sony Pictures Animation. Another not so well received animation company. Let's talk about it. Sony Pictures Animation started in 2006. They released movies like, say, Open Season. That was their first film for the company. The film wasn't too bad of a film. It definitely got some good reviews, yet still just didn't compete well with the others. It never really got to that attention. So they tried releasing more. They released the Hotel Transylvania franchise, which definitely did grow better, but still just wasn't well critical comparing to the other animation movies. So they continued. But their continuous didn't go so well. As they tried to release better movies, it kind of started to backfire. This started in 2017. They released a animated Smurfs movie to try and apologize for how horribly received the live-action Smurfs movies were. And even though those movies made lots of money, they just weren't well received, so they tried making an animated Smurfs movie, which also didn't go the right way. They then released the Emoji Movie, which didn't go the right way, and so many problems. It became what many consider to be one of the worst animated movies of all time, and it even won the Razzie Award for Worst Picture of the Year. That's how bad it is. And that's when we knew Sony Pictures Animation wasn't going to get any better. because then they released The Star. It wasn't worse than the Emoji Movie, but it was still very bad received. They then released the Peter Rabbit movie, badly received. Hotel Transylvania free. I don't know how it was received, all I know is that I hated it. And then they released Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which many would think, oh boy, look at this, another film that's probably not going to do well. And it became their greatest achievement ever. It's now often considered to be the best animated movie of them, and it's even sometimes considered one of the greatest animated films of all time. It even won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. So yeah, Sony went from Emoji Movie to this, and that's a great achievement. I saw this movie, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's number 3 though, because I still think it didn't do as well as the other 2 movies you're going to see on this list. All I know is that it definitely surprised me with how good it was, and I'm definitely glad to see Sony Animation finally continue their on a good level. Let's just hope that the next Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie that's said to come out will be just as great as this, or maybe even better. The Lego Movie. Yeah, I know, it's weird to call this better than Into the Spider-Verse, but look, this is my opinion, okay? I have different opinions than everyone else. Let's talk about what the Lego Movie did. This was made by the Warner Animation Group. This was actually the first movie made by the so-called Warner Animation Group that they created. It wasn't the first animated film Warner Brothers released in theaters, but it was the first film made by the new animation company they designed, called Warner Animation Group. The film, of course, just focuses on the Lego brand, and when you look at it alone, you could think this is just going to be another stupid cash grab. Was it a stupid cash grab? Far from it. It was actually really well written and really well watchable. I watched this movie like when I was about 8 years old, and at the time I was expecting to see some good out of this, but I did not expect it to be this much fun to watch. And after realizing this was a really great movie, I knew I was getting into Lego more. This actually helped me get into the Lego brand, because before I was mostly just clicking and like, yay, hello, hey. But after this movie, I actually started getting into it more, and I started buying more sets, and now I'm pretty much a Lego geek. If you look around my room, you can. I don't have any. You probably never see my bedroom. I never done a tour, but I do have a bunch of Legos, because I'm a big Lego collector. Even to this day, I'm 15 years old and I'm wasting my time collecting Legos. I really need to be going somewhere with my life. What is wrong with me? Anyway, this movie was really great, and I'm mostly surprised it didn't get the attention it deserved. It didn't become the highest grossing animated film of that year, nor was it even nominated for Best Animated Feature. That's sad, but still, on paper, I'll still consider this to be one of the greatest achievements of animation I have seen at the time. But what is one movie that has done something that no other film outside of Disney or Pixar has done? How about a movie I've talked about 1 billion times already? Yeah, I've already talked about Shrek so many times, I should not bring it up anymore. We all know what it is. It's literally mostly considered to be the best outside of Disney or Pixar. But it's my favorite, personally, because this definitely takes an approach that I would not see Disney or Pixar wanting to approve. But when they did release it, it was massive, okay? It was huge. It definitely brought the animation genre into a new risk when it's not made by Disney or Pixar. So pretty much everything DreamWorks made after that helped make DreamWorks become one of the greatest animation companies ever. Some even consider the animation company to be superior to Disney or Pixar. I don't, but I still really love DreamWorks, and I'm still really glad this movie was successful. I don't really think I should talk about it because you already know my opinion about it. I've reviewed it a lot. All I'm just going to say is that this is my favorite animation done by DreamWorks. It's my favorite animation done by any other animation company besides Disney or Pixar. And that's just the end, okay? I've already talked about it enough. I have nothing else to say about it. Let's get out of here. Well, the best I can hope for now is that the next animated movie to come out that's not made by Disney will be good. Because if it's not, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. The movie industry's not going too bad, right? I mean, the movies are going good. We're getting some good films out there, aren't we? Yeah, I'm sure we are. Right? We're getting good movies out there, right?